Hello everyone, it's Magic here, and this is Sony ZV-E1 camera. And before I start, the naming is terrible. I'm sorry Sony, I love you guys, but this name, I couldn't memorize this. It's new Sony ZV-1. So naming, terrible. But camera, it's actually pretty awesome. But first of all, I do have to divide you guys, you watching me now. So I'm gonna divide you into two groups. The first group is gonna be all of you just like me. So you are a pro photographer or a pro filmmaker owning maybe multiple Sony A7 series bodies just like me. I have a full drawer of cameras and lenses and all the pro tech that I know how to use. This camera is not for you. This camera is not for none of these people in this group. So this camera is for the other group of people, which is actually all the content creators, all the travel vloggers, all the fitness vloggers, food vloggers, musician vloggers, anyone else that is not super proficient in terms of videography and filmmaking, but want to have the best of the best in terms of the image quality and the functionality. And this camera is packed with features. But still, if you're in the group number one, keep watching, because all the tech from Sony is like, if you're a Sony enthusiast just like me, this is going to be pretty exciting for you as well, because we get to see what Sony is coming up with. And if you're in the second group of people, you're going to freaking love this camera because it's super easy to use and it makes amazing footage. Also, this video is sponsored by myself, Magic. Make sure to check out my presets and my courses on how to edit photos. And I have a great course, Flash Magic, how to use a single flash on a wedding day. If you want to master flash wedding photography, make sure to check out my education website. Okay, let's talk ZV-E1. So as a ZV camera, it shares a lot of similarities, between all the previous models of ZV cameras. So you have a great microphone, we have a bokeh switch, big record button, no viewfinder, and then the form factor is kind of more similar to A7C, including the ports on the left, and basically the size of the camera is slightly smaller because it does not have any kind of a viewfinder. It does have a tilted screen though. And yeah, the size-wise, I would say is very similar to Sony A7C. But also, it does inherit a lot of stuff from a top Sony models. So it does have 12 megapixel full-frame sensor from Sony A7S III. Identical sensor, meaning identical performance. And then it does have a new AI unit that we know from A7RV, meaning we get all these new subject recognition tracking methods for autofocus. But the only difference being it does not have all the options that A7RV has to customize the way the camera tracks the subjects. So this is pretty powerful camera for such a compact build and for like a ZV series. And because it is made for vloggers, it does have quite a lot of new features dedicated for content creators, like new dynamic stabilization, new microphone settings, auto framing, or the new cinematic vlog mode. But let me break this down for you step by step. So it's clearly a video camera first. It does not have mechanical shutter. There's no mechanical shutter. You can obviously take photos, but you have to use a silent shutter, electronic shutter. And since the sensor is identical to A7S III, we have pretty much the same performance. So we have 4K 60, 422 10-bit, all intra mode, great ISO performance thanks to those 12 megapixels. And also, there's update coming in June that will give this camera 4K 120, but with 10% crop and no all intra, because this is the limitation of an SD card. We have S-Cinetone, so all the recent cameras from Sony have this nice Cinetone look. Also S-Log with ability to load your LUTs. But these, features, numbers, and symbols are kind of for pros. And if you don't know anything about this, Sony also got you covered with the new cinematic vlog mode. So what it does, with one click, it switches the camera to certain settings. First setting being 4K 24p to get this nice, smooth motion. And this is a fixed setting, so you cannot change this. Another fixed setting is the aspect ratio. So now you're getting 235:1, but check this out. It still records 16:9, but it gives this top and the bottom black bars. I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not gonna comment on that. And then it gives you three things that you can control. First one is look. You can choose between S Cinetone, clean, chic, fresh, and mono. Then you have a mood. You choose between auto, gold, ocean, forest, and then you have autofocus transition speed. You choose between high, medium, and low. So you can get like different combination on all of these three to get the look that you want, like kind of desired look. So this way, by one click of a button, you just get this kind of more cinematic look without knowing much about the parameters, which might make life easier for people that are not professional filmmakers, but wants to have like this certain kind of footage. Now let's talk autofocus. This camera has the autofocus just like the flagship A7RV. So AI unit that helps to recognize the subject, helps to recognize the human by the human structure and gets, autofocus faster. Or when you don't see the face of the person, it still knows that this is the person. So yeah, then the autofocus, this is the top of the top from what Sony has to offer. And I have to say, this is pretty sad that there's many pro cameras from Sony that does not have this kind of autofocus. I'm looking at you, Sony, right now. There's only Sony A7RV and the ZV-E10 now with this type of autofocus. But what is new in this experience of shooting and using this camera is a feature called auto framing, and it's pretty neat. So check this out. Sony ZV-E1 can track and crop your image in order to follow your subject within your frame. So the way it works, you choose how big the crop you want. You have three options: large, medium, and small, and then you get to choose the tracking speed. Then you decide how do you want to activate the auto framing. So it could be just automatically when the camera recognizes the subject, like human face or something like that, or it can be, directed by you. So you have to click on the screen and kind of, track yourself, and then camera will crop accordingly. And it looks pretty cool. So on the screen, you will see this rectangle box that will just follow you around. Like when you move, the camera will just, crop accordingly. What's even better, you can actually use it while streaming. So you can connect the camera via USB and stream to your desired platform, or just use it as a webcam and then still use the auto framing. And then what's even more, you can connect a recorder via HDMI, and it can record full 4K image, while on the SD card, you can record the cropped image. So you can kind of have like two different footages at once, one being cropped and kind of follow you around, and the second one being like full 4K. The output cropped image is still 4K as the file, but obviously this is like a digital cropping, so you could have done it in post later on, but it would be time consuming, so you can just have it done within the camera, in camera. And I am truly impressed by how well this works. Then we also have new stabilization features. So we have, on top of the active stab, we do have dynamic active stabilization. So at the cost of a bigger crop, quite big crop to be honest, but you get this like super smooth image. And under stabilization options, you do have one more new option, which is the frame stabilizer. So option kind of similar to that auto framing. It will keep your subject in the middle of the frame in a fixed position. So if the subject is moving, you can have it kept right in the middle, filling full frame. So I actually will show the footage to you. So let's move to the outdoors magic using this camera with active stabilization.
Alright, so this is it. This is shooting on 20mm f1.8 lens. I'm shooting at f1.8, so you can see that nice bokeh from the full frame. I'm also using the built-in mic, which have now plenty of functions. Now we can check the direction. Now we can change the direction of the microphone as well. But now I'm going to process the audio from that microphone through that Adobe free tool that I'm using to process most of my audio, so it just sounds better. So now the sound is processed, so you can probably clearly tell the difference, and yeah, it sounds great. So you can use the built-in mic with just talking like this and enhance it just to sound way better. But now let's play with the stab. So I'm just walking like this, talking to you, so you can just get the idea, walking back and forth. I'm gonna do that a couple times with different type of stabilization. So this one was stabilization off. All right, so now gonna move to the menu.
And this is the active stabilization, so the one known from the previous Sony model. So now I'm walking back and forth. You can probably clearly see the difference in terms of cropping. So it just slightly cropped and should be smoother. You know, here me walking back and forth. And now I'm gonna switch to the dynamic active stabilization so you can see the difference. So this is dynamic active. So I'm using 20mm again lens. So it got pretty tight. You see, I'm walking with my hand just fully stretched, and I'm pretty much fully tightly cropped. I'm going to the sun. It's pretty cool actually. Look how smooth the movement left and right is. I'm moving camera left and right now. Just look at this. Pretty impressive, but you'd need a very wide angle lens. So I think a lens like 16 to 35 would be way better. At that 20mm tight, again, my hand right now is fully stretched. But yeah, I'm walking maybe slightly faster now. I'm ready. All right. Yeah, other than the fact that I'm having troubles framing right now, this is pretty awesome. But now I'm gonna switch to framing stabilizer so we can see how the camera will try to keep me in the center of the frame. Yeah, the crop got crazy tight. All right, let's see. Running now. 20mm. It's pretty cinematic. It does keep me in the middle. I'm right, baby. Oh yeah. My arm is fully stretched, and I'm using 20mm lens, so this is pretty tight. And now I don't, as you can see, the camera is keeping me right in the middle, so I don't have to care that much about my hand not being exactly right in the middle. Yeah, looks pretty dope. I like it. I like the look of it. So this is it, the vlogging test. I approve this camera for vlogging. It's pretty neat, right? So the new active stabilization working really well, but you have to have a really wide angle lens in order to be able to use this camera like handheld recording yourself. So as you can see, these new features are clearly made towards content creators, and then you can use them all, you know, for streaming, as I said. And what I did not say is that you can stream now via USB 4K 30. So Sony A7 IV can do only 4K 15 using USB, but this now can do 4K 30. So it's pretty high quality output that you're getting from this camera connected to your computer. You have to be careful because it can overheat. It is a tiny body. It does not have, you know, the cooling advanced systems that we know from A7S III or active cooling that we have on FX3. So for me, when I connected this as my webcam, I could use it for like over 20 minutes before it showed me the icon that the temperature is running high, and then it gave me like a couple more minutes until it died. I switched it off, switched on like right away, and it still worked for another 15 minutes. So it's pretty sweet, but still, you know, if you want to streaming like long hours, you might try it with a dummy battery. That should help, but also there's going to be probably tons and tons of scientific tests done with this camera compared to other cameras, how they overheat. So make sure to check it out if you intend to use this camera this way. And you know, for me, I would love to have camera like this as my webcam, but also, you know, it would be a pretty expensive webcam. And this leads me to the last point, which is the price and the value and, you know, my overall conclusion. What do I think about this camera? So the price in euro is 2,700 euros. I'm not sure what's going to be the USD. We recently had really wild differences between euro price and the dollar price. So it might be quite cheaper in US dollars, but still I think for 2,700 euros, you're getting a pretty decent camera. It has a lot of very flagship features. It does have a lot of new features, you know, towards content creators. And then it does perform really, really well. So, you know, because of that sensor known from A7S III, you get like top-notch performance in terms of high ISO, you get top-notch out-of-focus performance, and then you get the new vlogging features. So what are the cons? Are there any cons? looking with my professional eye, I have only one SD slot. It's not as big and, easy to use because it does not have joystick and it does not have so many custom buttons that I am personally used to as a Sony A7S III or A7 IV user. So this is like clearly kind of like different type of camera. But for those of you from this group, so like all the content creators looking for, the camera that will get you the best quality, the best bokeh because you get the full frame look, the best high ISO performance, the best autofocus, and then on top of that, all these content creation features. This is freaking nuts. This, like, for 2,700 euros, I think it's a banger. Like I couldn't imagine a better camera for this type of creation. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about it, whether you're in this group or in this group. What's your thoughts on the new tech from Sony? And make sure to check out my video tomorrow where I filmed with this camera the behind the scenes from a winter wedding session in mountains. Thanks so much for watching. I see you guys in the next video. Ciao.